Hey guys, it's watercolor day. It's not only watercolor day, it's watercolor old barn winter scene landscape day that I've been on a barn kick this week. So I'm going to follow that up and do a nice little landscape of a barn. Winter, steel gray sky, cloudy. Oh, it looks so cold. I went a whole winter without doing a watercolor winter scene, so let me roll up my sleeves here and we're going to get started on that right here in a second. But before I do, I just wanted to remind everybody, I think I've been promising this for several videos, but I am going to be working with a set of Paul Rubens watercolor. It's a pan set that was sent to me. They wanted me to paint with it and talk about it and see what I thought about the paints. So I'm going to do this demo using this pan set. It looks like it's an extensive pan. We got all sorts of cool colors, greens, the earth tone colors, reds, all through a number of reds, yellows. There's a flesh tone here, white, and they even sent me a second little ultramarine. No, yeah, I think it was ultra. It's so, the damn writing's so small I can barely tell what it is. So I just tested out the ultramarine just a little bit. It seemed to be pretty rich colors. So, but we'll give this a try, see how it goes. It's a brand new set. Standard pan, very colorful. So I got it taped down right now, but there's a ring on the back too, so you could take it out and work with it in a plein air situation. And that ring on the back, you just slide your finger through and hold on to the palette, put it on your arm. Just paint with it like that. So pretty standard set. And also, if you didn't know, these pans, you can lift out the colors and you have additional mixing areas in the metal tray. So I'll do that from time to time. Not always. If I'm in the studio using it, I'll just use it, use these two sides right here. And then I also, these never flop properly, so I normally brace these up with a kneaded eraser right up under there like that, so gives it a little stability. So that pan's ready to rock and roll. I haven't even watered them down yet. So I seen this on some other competitor's channel, but they spritz it. I normally dribble water onto it to do it, but I'll do the spritz thing. So we'll just get a little water onto the pigments, loosen them up, and we'll be able to get started on the painting here in just a second. I've already sketched it up onto a Bao Hong 300-pound watercolor paper. It's got a good tooth to it, so I think it'll be a fun one. It's a slow paper, so it's going to stay wet for a while, and that's okay because I do have some atmospheric effects, some atmospheric perspective that I'm going to work on in the background with some soft hills and some soft fuzzy trees. And other than that, and we'll be able to get some really gorgeous looking nice soft wet on wet transitions with the snow on the ground as well. So you wouldn't think there's a lot of color in a winter scene, but there is. There are lots of blues. The barn itself is this picture right here. It's got a lot of neutral colors in it. The barn is an old weathered brown, so pretty dark. Overall, low key, not a lot of highlight. Probably the hottest area is this hill over here and that plane on the roof. So yeah, I think we should be able to, even though we're working with this slow paper, I think we're going to be able to get through this one fairly quick. So let's get started. Paul Rubens pan set. Let me tape this down real quick. I got excited and I pushed the button before I was completely ready. So I'm always excited on watercolor day. You know, I've seen people, you know, and then people get a lot pretty fussy over their prep stages and stuff. And I've done it, you know, a number of ways. So one of the key things I've seen people do is they'll come in and kind of just get the area they're going to be working with wet first, just to kind of, I think, condition the paper. So we'll do that in this case. And anything I don't want to get wet, I'm just going to let it, I'm just going to go around it, right? So I'm blocking around that area. And there's a little spot right back here. So when I lay down the wash, that color wash shouldn't jump the fence and get onto the barn right there. So, and always check. You can kind of look at it in an angle. You can see how wet or dry the paper is by how much glisten there is on the paper. So is there a sheen or not? So it's a damp paper now. And I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to mix up a little bit of some blue. We got navy blue, we got ultramarine blue. I think I'll go with the ultramarine. There's the ultramarine, I found it. So it's going to be a thin mixture. It's going to be a very thin mixture for the sky. And I'm going to mix a little bit of the burnt umber. And we'll start getting that blue steel color right there. And I need to mix up. It's activating nicely the pigments. So I just need to get a pretty good puddle here. It's not a big piece, so it shouldn't take a lot of pigment. Now it's looking brown. There we go. Now we're getting that nice steel gray. And I'm getting a good puddle. It's still pretty damp. And what I'll do, I got a darker grayish color there. I'm going to mix up a bluer one right up here. Get a little more blue. And I'll just bounce around between the two. So we'll just come in. Doesn't have to be very dense or dark at all. The sky isn't that dark. Oops. I just crossed onto my white area. Danger, Will Robinson. There we go. I'll pick that back out. That's all right. Like I said, it's a slow paper, so it shouldn't be a big problem. Come in here. There we go. We'll get a little more of that darker color. Throw it right in through here, and then we'll get some of that lighter blue right up there. And you get some nice, really nice soft transitions in the sky because we laid down that wet on wet first. And the biggest, hardest part is to not fuss with it. So I'll just come right here, keep lifting that off of there. 5 seconds in and I screwed it up, man. Oh well, I think we can work with it. All right, now I'm going to come in and get those distant little hilltops right back there, but I'm going to need a little more of this raw sienna color. So it's still going to be a grayish color, but it's a little warmer than the other. So, and I'll just come in and we'll throw a little bit of that right there. It's going to be light, not a lot of density to it. We'll come right down onto that snowbank line right there. All right, could use a little more. I'm going to get some, that might be a little more of a brown I want. There we go. There we go. Perfect. I'm splattering it all over. And we'll just drop in a little more color. Come over here, same drill. Come on. Get a little more color. There we go. Come right down onto it, right there. We'll pull it right underneath as well. Here we go. Good. Put a little block right there. Again, it's still damp enough. That color is still traveling, so I'm going to just keep lifting it off of my one board or plane. I'm going to throw just a smidge of color over here on this plane as well. I use more of a phthalo blue on that. I just want it to have a little bit of a different cast and be just a little bit darker right up there. All right, so everything's wet right now, and I'm going to get a little more. That's a Van Dyke brown right there. I'm just going to drop it in. Just kind of get a little more modeling, a little more saturated color in there. We can come back in stage 2 and get a little more detail, a little more texture to it, but we got Mr. Bead right there, and that's going to dry nicely. Might even sop it up just a little bit. Come on. There we go. All right. I got a splatter right there. Is that splatter driving you crazy? I'll fix it. Here, we'll just daub him up real quick. There we go. Actually, I'm kind of liking that. That's looking pretty cool. All right, and now I'm going to get some of this. Now, the one thing I wish there was a yellow ochre. I like using yellow ochre. Works pretty well, but that looks like a raw umber right there. And I'm just going to come over here. I'm going to throw it onto this plane right there. Comes right down along the snowbank right there. Again, just dropping in color, establishing local color, and we'll come in and we'll work with textures in just a second. Same color over here on this stone of the lean-to. Get a little more. Good. There we go. You got a good flat brush. Again, you can do a lot with it. I'm painting with the tip right there. Good. I'll just throw a little bit of it out here as well. All right. So, and we have some good things happening. See another spot I need to fix real quick. I'm just going to lift it out and pull it over. There it is. And there's a spot right there. All right. All right, so that's looking pretty good. And I'm going to go ahead and get a little more of this. I think I'll start with a little bit of a burnt sienna. There we go. Get a little more, loosen that up. That sienna is not loosening up. We'll get, there we go. Get a little bit of that Van Dyke. All right, so I got a good base color. And I'll just come in and I'll get that whole shape right here. That's kind of the underpainting, the undertone of the whole barn, that top portion of the barn. And we'll get a little more, here we go. I just mixed up slightly different color, not much. We'll get some of this. We'll just throw it in there too, just for some color variation. There we go. Good. All right. Lift those wet spots out again. Ultimately, it will stop flowing. And if not, I can work with it. All right, now I'm going to make a little clean spot on the palette. So far, the colors seem good. They're mixing up nice. They're interacting on the paper nicely. I want to get a little bit of a blue and just a smack of, oh, that's an indigo. I think this is the phthalo. anyway, that's very thin, and I'm going to come in here. I'm going to paint some of the blues and the shadows of the snowbanks. So I'm going to load my brush a little bit. There we go. And this snowbank come right along, right down along in here. All right, now that's wet on dry, so if I do want it to feather a little, I'm just going to introduce a little water into it, soften that up, maybe throw just a little bit of that brown. I need more of a greenish, just a little more of a greenish tinge to it. There we go. It's going to come across, there we go, along that bank. We'll come in right there. I'm going to leave a little highlight edge, pull it out right here, pull it over, make a sharp bank right there. We'll just throw, there we go, nice sharp bank. We got a nice shadow over here. Throw a little more of that brown right here. I'll throw that shadow right across over here. Good. And I think there's a little smidge of it right up there. And overall, I'm going to just mix up a very thin, and we'll just pull it in. Little dry brush, and there we go. We got the snowbanks all set. Sorry, I'm working on that little drop right there. All right, and actually I'm going to throw just a bit more right up here. That's in the shade, so it didn't matter about that at all. Excellent. And there we go. I think right now we have it color blocked, and we'll be able to start working with intensifying saturations and finding big shapes in our next stage as soon as this dries just a little bit, and then we can get started. So hang on and give me a minute. Here we go. Roll up my sleeves again. This is now stage 2. We're gonna, the paper's dried, it's still damp. I can still feel some moisture in it, but that's okay. Should be able to go in and start working on it. I'm gonna work from the back forward, so I'm gonna work on these little hills a little bit, get a little more saturated color and just a smidge of texture going on in there. Separate this foreground hill from the background hill, and then we'll start blocking in some big shapes, a little more intense color. That'll give us good base for stage 3 when we start doing our detail work, our texture work, and structure work. So, all right, let's see here. I'm going to use a round brush now. It's not that big of a piece, so it's a number 2, or is this number 4? This is number 3 round right here. It's one of those Da Vinci Cosmotop Spin synthetic brushes. So, same color scheme. I got the whole set of colors right here that I can use. And I'm just going to come in and intensify maybe some of the structure on the hills themselves. So, and that was just a quick dry brush. I can soften it, loosen it up. I just wanted to get a little more texture in there. Throw maybe just a bit more blue on it as well. Just soften it up. So a little color transition right there. Like I said, all those colors are very much I'm going to get just a little touch of red right there. I want a little bit of a violet. I'm going to put a little bit of violet right back here on this hill. Bring it right up to the foreground one. And then we'll just soften it out a little. Get a little irregular edge to it. And that looks good. And I'm going to throw just a bit of that color as well right down here. Right down at the base, right by that snow mound on that roof, that little lean-to roof. Just for a little definition there. Then I'm going to get some more of that brown. We'll throw it right up on the top. and soften it out. Put a little of that blue. Where's the blue? Right in there. So again, that's a pretty good base mix of colors right there. Get a little more of that. That looks like a burnt umber. I'm just going to put a little more of that right in on the stone face right there. A little more intense color, especially right up underneath the snowdrift. And get a little of that Van Dyke, a little of that blue. We'll throw that right in here. And again, it's going to be darker right along that snowdrift right there. That looks good. It's a little sharp. I'm going to soften it just a little bit. Really no detail yet, just finding shapes. I'm trying not to be too defined yet. So, and it is a battle not to be defined. It's just a constant fight with me. So I'm going to get this side of the barn right there, really dark right underneath the eave. And then I'm going to throw a little more of a blue to it. I want it to be bluer. All right, we'll come right down along here. There we go. That looks good. And more of that blue. I'm going to get this shadow right here along the side of the barn. Get that big shape, saturate it, separate it from the other face. And I'm just painting in a shadow line right there. And I'm going to just soften it just a little bit. There we go. All right. And while I'm at it, I'm going to just come in, I'm going to hit some of these shadow areas. It's not a real thick, it's probably a tea consistency of a mixture of pigment right there. So it's not terribly heavy. There we go. There's a spot. I need to follow it right along the top edge of that snowdrift right there. And I'm going to feather it just a little bit right there. All right, so that's getting a nice sense of depth to it. Just feeling around. That's looking nice. That's looking good. That's looking good. So I'm going to get a little bit. I do have a lamp black and I think a Payne's gray in this as well. So I think that's the lamp black. Here, let me look. What's this one? Yeah, I think that's the lamp black. That's the Payne's gray right there. All right, and I'm looking. I'm going to throw a little bit of value right in that spot in the snow right there. All right, I'm going to go after this darker shade, maybe a darker reddish brown right in here, and a little more of that black on it. Throw a little bit of red into it as well. Kind of has an old faded red painted barn feel to it. And we'll just come over here and we'll get it going on this side. There we go. And we'll keep pulling that. We're going to, let me feel it. I want to go ahead and throw a bunch of it onto this side as well. And I'm going to vary the the amounts and mix in a range of colors here. So I'm going to grab all sorts of things. I'm going to throw the whole kitchen sink on this one. I want some variations. So even a little blue. Let's throw a little blue in there as well. Okay. Get a little more of that. That's looking nice. Good. And I'm going to get I'm going to use that Payne's Gray right up here. A little red in it. I'm going to paint that stone face on the lower portion of the barn right now with that color, because I want it different, just a slightly different shade than that stone right there. So we got two different, no, this is actually a wood, so a different wood. I'll just throw a little more of that color right over here on that, just to distinguish it a little different from the rock face. All right, it looks like a lot, doesn't it? I'll just feather it out a little bit. It'll dry lighter. There we go. Get a little more of it over here. There we go. Cool. All right, so we have managed to block a little more color onto the surface of the planes of the barn. I'm going to add a little more color now, if I can get enough. Throw a little more of it onto the stone. No detail yet, just colors. Just felt a wet spot. So once all of these dry, we can come in and then really start working with some structure, detail, trees, bushes, all the fussy stuff that takes so long. So, all right, I need to put just a little more value into the sky. Nice soft cloudish look to it. So I'm going to get a little more ultramarine, get a little more of a just slightly different color. It's going to be thin. And what I want, I'm looking here, I want to put a little more of a cloudish shape right up against the edge of that snowy roof. And right down here along this edge right here. All right, and then I'm going to feather it. I don't want any of those sharp edges. Yeah, that looks nice. The big difference with the good paper versus like that Canson stuff that I do a lot of the studies with is just the ability of that paper to really stay wet. So when you do add the next color on, you don't get that distinct edge from one color to the other. So you can feather a lot easier with these papers. You know, it's not that you can't do a nice piece with the student grade stuff. You just got to know how to work with it and work within its parameters. So we're going to throw a little color right up there. I want to soften that up. There we go. There we go. And in this case, I do like a nice mop. I've got a little small mop here that I'm using to drop in some of those additional colors in that big wash. So, all right, well, that's stage 2. We found shapes, we've intensified shapes. Next stage is structure, contrast, and detail. So we'll let this dry and then we'll come after it in just a second. We are back at it again. It's dried enough. I still feel a little moisture in it, but now we're going to start working in the structure, detail, defining edges, finding the textures in the boards, and making this thing start to read. And it's really going to start popping at this point. So I'm going to be working with number 3 and number 1 round brush, and we're going to just start defining some of the deepest, darkest shadows and edges in this and start working with more of a coffee to milk to cream consistency. So this is where we'll see if the Paul Rubens stuff will mix up thick enough and heavy enough. I think it will. So let's give it a try. I'm going to define some of the structure over here on the barn, some of those deepest, darkest shadows, and then we'll come in and really start getting the big planes to the right value range. So let me get some of this Van Dyke brown and we'll really start mixing up some thick mixtures of stuff. Yeah, that's looking like a good milk consistency. Get a little more of that brown. Classic combination, a Van Dyke brown, a burnt umber with an ultramarine or a phthalo blue, and you get a really nice dense color that's not black but pretty darn close. So all right, so I'm just going to come in here and we'll just start defining some of these edges. Nope, not thick enough. There we go. Let's get a little more. All right, so now we're starting to, yeah, I need a pretty thick line. So, and it doesn't spread too much when I pop it in there, and it can be an uneven line. So just the darkest areas I'm just going to define real quick with some painted edges. There we go. Got a nice edge back here. All right. Now I'll probably lose a lot of these edges as I start layering in more saturation onto the shadow side, but at least gives me a point of reference and where to work from. There we go. I'm faking in the windows right there. We'll get that door, and there's a kind of a nice, almost like you can see into the interior of it. Right along there. That looks good. I'm going to get this opening right here, this hayloft door. The darkest, deepest shadows. I'm going to get this right over here as well. Get that right there. Right along the building. Right along that terminus edge. And we'll throw that shape. Pull that down, right along the front of the barn. Get that shape filled in. Nice dark color. I want to thin it out a little bit. Yeah, so there's a little variation in it. And there's even, I'm going to get a little more of that right here. There we go. That looks good. Feather it just a little bit. Pull it down. I'm going to define this side of the shed by painting the negative side of the barn over here. And get that shadow under the eave right there. Pull it on out right to there, and then I'll feather it. Maybe throw a little more blue into it right now. I do want it kind of a bluish color right there. There we go. Perfect. All right. I'm going to take that blue real quick. I'm going to define this edge right up here with that blue. Come right down there. I'm going to paint in that whole shadow right there. And we'll pull it down just a little bit, right like that. There we go. Actually, there's a nice little shadow line right under the separation of the two halves of this barn right there. We'll just pull that across as well. And right along under here. That looks nice. And then I'm just making marks in the direction of the boards. Right there. I'll get a little more of it right over here. And a little more right in here. Again, this is almost an underpainting as well. I'm going to throw it right under the door face right there. Cool. All right, and then I'm going to get some of this, get a little more red in that this time. All right, and we'll do the same thing over here, just in red, more of a purpley red. And we're just building up the shadow side. Need a little more darkness right up there. There we go. It's all very wet, so it's going to meld nicely. Throw a little more of it down here as well. I'm going to keep it crunchy because it's a stone right there. And we'll do the same thing going out this way. Right under the snow. Then it angles the opposite direction right there. Crunchy, crunchy. So those were textural marks. Get a little more of that blue right in here. All right, and I'm going to throw more of it right up over here. I'm really going for texture right now. It's stone, there's individual faces. I know it's there, but you have to fight the urge to paint it directly. You gotta make marks that will read properly for it. All right, and I'm gonna get a little more of that blue. That's a coffee consistency. And I'm just gonna come in, I'm gonna add just a little bit of line work on the top edge of this roof line, just for a little more separation from the roof line to the sky. There is a definition there. There's actually a lighter edge right there, but I've got the lighter edge on the wrong side of it, so I'm going to do it the opposite way. We'll just drop it in. Right there. And I just unloaded my brush just a little bit. There's a little bit too much pigment in it. Right there. All right. And I could just slightly feather it just a little bit. There we go. That looks pretty good. And I'm going to do the same thing right over here. There's a real dark spot right up over here. So we'll just get it in there. There we go. I'm going to feather that out just a little bit. There we go. Oh yeah, that's looking good. All right. And A little crunchy edge right here, just very broken, uneven, just a little definition from the barn to the snow. I'm going to throw a little more of that right over here on that too. And we do have a plane change right there, so I'm going to make this side just a little darker, but crunchy. I'm going to feather it just a little bit. There we go. That's looking good. Get a little more of that ultramarine blue right there. I'm going to throw a little bit more into this shadow. That looks good. I'm going to throw a bit of it out here as well. And even onto, I'm going to throw a bit more of it onto the surface of that snow right there. That looks good. And I'm going to throw more of that right up here on, right up here. There we go. And I'm going to get a little more intense color, that raw sienna, burnt sienna combo, just a bit of blue in it. And I'm just going to throw a little crunchiness. Nope, needs more. Get some burnt, there we go. I'll throw a little crunchiness right here on this. Uh-oh, there we go. That reads as rock. There we go. Nice. That looks really good. I'm going to throw some of it down on this one too. Excellent. We are cooking now. All right. What I need to do now is I'm going to come after and probably another layer of glazing. I'm going to get a flat brush to do that though. So I've got this 1/2-inch flat brush, and I'm going to get some more of that red color. Needs to be a little more intense. So I'm just going to glaze a bit more of that onto the surface. Feather it out, come around, just bounce around. Kind of a mottled effect. Over here, definitely. Right on that highlight edge. Cool. That looks good. And I'm going to throw just a bit more of this brown, brownish, purpley blue right down over here. Put a little more glaze on it. Back there in the shadows. And over here. Excellent. That's looking good. All right, as that's drying, I'm going to go back and I'm going to start just start touching up and adding in some of the structure of the trees and some of the foliage out there. So let's do that real quick with a very dense dark color, bluish. Let's get a little more blue in it. All right, there we go. So, and this is going to be more of a visual thing, not so much, I'm not trying to paint the trees heavily. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to, if I can get my brush just right, we'll just kind of come in and paint in crunchy shapes right in there. And then we'll add in all the other fun stuff. All right, we got some happening. We'll throw some right up in here. Throw some right up in here as well, right up against that. Throw some over there. We also have some right down here. We'll throw some of it right down in here. Yeah, it's a nice crunchy organic shape. And there's going to be some right over here as well. And even some right down here. This is dry brush. This is where a nice texture on the paper, a good paper, really pays off. And there's a bit right up in through here as well. So all right, so that's a good base for some of the structure work we're going to be doing. There's actually a nice, get a little thicker mixture. We're going to do the same thing right up here. It's like little trees on the top of the hill. If I can get the right consistency. Perfect. Throw a little more right over here. Now I'm just layering. I'm just building more complexities with these raw shapes. Right along there. I got a dribble there, but I'm going to disguise it with a little smidge of color. We'll be able to work with that. All right. Throw another little bit of it out here a little further. There we go. There we go. Just need a little more color value right there. Excellent. And we'll throw some trees back in here. Feather them out. Just a little more definition. Yeah, that's reading well. All right, that is coming along nicely. All right, that needs to dry. And that's feeling pretty good. Go back to my really dark color. Let me get it a little more mixed up there. The colors are working well. They're applying nicely to the paper. They're mixing up in the right consistency. So far so good. I've liked them. They're a pretty good set. Performance seems to be about right. Just creating textural marks there. I'm going to put a little shadow line in here on the windows. Just little touches. All right, and let's come after the shadow line over here. Okay, we'll get that definition on this door right here. Throw a shadow line right under here as well. All right. And I need to stand. So I'm coming back in now, and I'm really starting to punch up the detail and the structure. This side's very dark, so I'm just going to dry brush in some darker colors. It kind of stays lighter right towards the center. It's dark right under here, so I'm going to get a little more dry brush right underneath there. Dry brushing in some boards. Need to make another shadow line right along here. All right, and I'm just continuing to paint a little more structure, little textures. Get a little more of that blue. Actually, make a nice thin glaze. I'm just going to throw a little more of that blue right over here and right on that door. And right up here a little bit more better. There we go. Nice contrasting color right in there. Put a little more of it right in here as well. So that is looking good. All right, now I'm going to go after all the foliage, all the the sticks, the trees, all the tree trunks, the posts, and everything else. And we're getting close to coming up on the end of this piece. And this is where all the fussy little things happen. And they're important things. They really do start making the piece read properly and pop just the way you want it. And I'm going to just mix up a couple of puddles that I can use. And I'm still painting with my number 1. So let's get going. All right. That all feels nice and dry. So here we go. I might even get my other little brush out. Let me look for it. Hang on. There it is. All right. Get my liner brush out. These are pretty small trees, so I can do a lot with the thin marks with this brush. Takes a little practice, get into it. And get them to read just right. Keep them angular. And it should look pretty good. I'll grab my small brush again. I'm going to get a couple of the other things over here. All right. One fence post there. Throw another one. Do I need another one? I don't think I do. Good. 3 brushes all at once. There we go. Man, that looks like $1,000,000. All right, we got one down here. I'm going to go ahead and get him started. Yeah, we're cooking now. I want to get a few more of them down here. Just a flick of the wrist, and those things read perfect. Vary the placement of them. We'll throw a few over here as well. We got a nice tree stand over here. I need to get onto it. Vary your directions so they don't all go in the same way. It'll read better, more natural that way. All right, those look good. And I'm going to switch over to my small brush again. I want to get some of these fence posts real quick. Have another one over here. Nice dark. Get a little more density there. Come on. There we go. Oh, come on. There we go. Throw this. Okay, got a couple more over here. We'll go ahead and get that shape a little better right there. Good. And one right here. We also have, go back and get some of that color. Throw just a bit of it right over here. Right there. Cool. All right, and then back to my blue. And I'm just going to kind of intensify transition and the hollow of this one. It's a little bluer right in through here. And right up through here. There we go. That's looking good. Actually, that's dried enough. I'm just going to throw a little more blue right back in there. Right back over in here. That looks pretty sweet. And there's actually a nice little crease right through here. I'm going to just flatten it out, feather it. And for compositional reasons, that's a leading line, so that's leading you out of the piece. I'm going to throw a little more right in here. That reads nicely. Maybe right up there as well. I knew I started this out because I wanted to paint shadows right there, and right there, right under there. I'm looking a little more right in there. There we go. And switching back over to my fine liner there. Okay. Little foreground action with these grasses. Okay, so we are just about done. And I'm going to throw a little bit of a wire right in through here. A little barbed wire action. And last but not least, I'm going to do just a little bit more value on the barn itself. There's a wet spot right there. So I'm going to just throw in some really dark definition spots, boards, cracks, creases, gaps. And we're just about done. All right. Perfect. There we go. Throw a little more of a shade right in through here. It's too light. There we go. Switching over to my other brush. Get a little more of that blue. Throw just a bit of it more back in there. There we go. And there we go. So anyway, that's our barn. Nice looking little barn. Got a pretty good set of color values on the face of it. Nice snow with the blues, foliage, trees, all that. I hope you got some value out of this little tutorial. I think the Reuben pan set worked really well. Nice colors. Good range of colors as well, even though it was a fairly neutral overall piece, not terribly colorful, but they mixed well together. They thin out nicely. I was doing a lot of very thin mixes, so they held up well in the thin washes, and I'm going to keep using it. I think it's a good set. If you're going to want to purchase this set, it'll be in the link will be an affiliate link will be in the video description, so click on that and you can go over there. I think you might even be getting a discount on it after watching this video, this little tutorial using the pan set. So hey, give me a like and a subscribe. I do have a bunch of links, other links, in addition to the Reuben set that will be there. There's a whole bunch of brush links, other pan sets, along with downloads. You can head over to my website. You get some downloads on drawing with Loomis, Riley, Bridgman, all sorts of good stuff there. This should keep you busy until the flowers start to bloom this spring, if they haven't already started. So, and if you think for any good reason you're getting some really good value out of all the videos on this channel, I would appreciate if you'd go over to my Patreon channel and subscribe for a $5 membership. It will help out immensely and help me keep doing these videos for everybody to watch and learn from. So I'll see you guys in the next tutorial.